on the 17th of June 2026. I'd just like to acknowledge the fact that we're being live streamed this morning and ask that everyone has their phones turned off or on silent, please. We have some visitors with us today who I'll introduce when they come to the table to join us, and I'd just like to welcome those that are watching online. I'd like to start off this morning with a karakia and invite Deputy Mayor Kai Fong to say the karakia for us, please.
Morena koutou, hi no tātou, tūtaua mai I ronga, tūtaua mai I raro, tūtaua mai I roto, tūtaua mai I waho, kia tau ai te Maori tui, te Maori ora, ki te katoa, haumi e, hui e, tae ki.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I just will note that we've got a busy day today. There's 2 meetings today, so we'll aim to have a break around 11, but as the Chair, I've decided to actually rearrange the agenda somewhat to bring the decision-making papers forward. So after we've done our housekeeping, I would like to actually bring forward the item for the recovered water on paper. So we'll tick off the housekeeping first and then we'll move into the next part of the meeting. So we don't appear to have any apologies this morning. We have Councillor Rokawa Tate joining us online. Nice to see you. So we'll just move on from there. There's no declarations of interest, councillors? There appear to be none. Are there any minor matters that are not on the agenda? I have no urgent items. Councillor Lee.
Yes, Madam Chair, I brought to your attention yesterday a minor matter that I would like to discuss, and it's to do with the practice of this council since the Ombudsman's report was published 3 years ago, and it seems we are still not complying with the Ombudsman's recommendations. In particular, I'm referring to how we handle going into public excluded, and what the Ombudsman requires of us is to explain in plain English why each particular item that we're going to cover in public excluded invokes a particular clause or section of the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act. And even at that stage, we have to acknowledge that there is a public interest in whatever we're discussing in public. And as elected members, we need to weigh up whether the public interest in a particular item outweighs the reasons given for going into public excluded. And in particular, I raise this today because of item, is it 8.3 on the agenda, which has a considerable public interest in terms of what's going to happen to our recovered water from the wastewater treatment plant. I seem to recall Mayor Tapsell describing it as potentially the biggest item.
I understand what the item's about, Councillor, so it's 2 parts there. The first part is you've made commentary around our practices as a council when moving into public excluded and using plain English, and I'd just like to endorse the efforts that staff have gone to actually try and address that, and I will actually ask the governance team, the head of governance team, Greg Keck, to reply to that. And with regards to item 8.3, I just would prefer that we actually discuss that item when we come to it, which is next on the agenda. So I'll just hand over to Greg for some commentary in the first instance.
Morning, councillors. Councillor Lee, thank you for your comments this morning. We have completed our Ombudsman recommendations. The Ombudsman has closed that side of the investigation with regards to the recommendations that they put forward through that Ombudsman's report back in 2023. So our layout is sufficient for what the Ombudsman was requesting at the time, as they have closed that investigation with us. However, we take on board your comments around being a little more transparent in the way that we communicate that, and so we'll go away and think about how we can better do that going forward.
Okay, well, thank you for that. I appreciate that, and look forward to having a fulsome debate on item 8.3 as to confidentiality matters. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. If there are no further minor matters, I will move on to the confirmation of the minutes, item 5 on page 5 of your agenda, councillors. Could I have a mover and a seconder that the minutes of the Infrastructure Committee meeting held on the 13th of May be confirmed as a true and correct record, please? Thank you, Deputy Mayor Kai Fong, seconded by Councillor Timara Benfell. Are there any corrections to the minutes? There appear to be none. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? That is carried. Thank you. We'll now move on to item 7, which is the resolution to go into public excluded. This is on page 50, councillors. Sorry to jump around the agenda for you, but we're on page 50. And I'd like to advise that there are 3 items for consideration for going into public excluded. They are item 8.1, confidential minutes of the infrastructure meeting held on the 13th of May, item 8.2, which is the wastewater treatment plant upgrade progress report, and item 8.3, which is the recovered water management solution project. 8.2 is a report that contains information relating to financial progress around the wastewater treatment plant upgrade project, and this is commercially sensitive and it could be damaging to the council's ability to actually negotiate in commercial operations. So this is why this has been held in public excluded, and the item 8.3 has had the consideration of public interest taken into account, but it is felt by the staff that is outweighed by the fact that there is information regarding to financial matters, and also that would impact the ability for council to negotiate at a later stage. It also contains information about private people and organisations and land holdings, which a lot of these organisations have not been notified of this paper, and also we want to protect the privacy of people. So these are the reasons that I am considering resolving that the Infrastructure Committee moves into public excluded on the grounds contained in section 48(1) of the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act. Do I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Timera Benfell. Is there any discussion?
Yes, I'd like some discussion on that, please, Madam Chair. So just to clarify, are we referring only to 8.2 and 8.1, or is this a motion that includes 8.3?
To be very clear, Councillor, I'm talking about items 8.1, 8.2 and 8.3, and we can have discussion on this if you would like. It's my desire, and it's been seconded, to go forward into public excluded, but you're welcome to make some comments.
So I'm comfortable with 8.1 and 8.2, and I would request that we can separate out the voting on that. I'm comfortable to support 8.1 and 8.2 for going into public excluded. When it comes to 8.3, there's a significant public interest in what's going to happen to our recovered water from the wastewater treatment plant. I understand that the working group who has been working on this have passed over the most cost-effective option. So I would like the opportunity to question those committee members with the public and the media present.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor. Are there any further comments on that? Mayor Tapsell?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you I saw your email this morning responding to Councillor Lee, so a little disappointing that he's continuing to push the point. We are following good process here, and you have just mentioned some information that, again, should have been discussed in confidential, so I'm quite disappointed about that. You have the right to raise these issues, but we do really need to take seriously what has been mentioned in here under section 7.2. The withholding of information is necessary to enable council to carry on without prejudice or disadvantage negotiations, and these negotiations are at such an early stage, and this has been a very thorough process. I want to go on confidential so that we can hear how thorough it's been, the consideration that's come into the options. And of course, this is a big community decision, and information will be made readily available, as it already is, as soon as practically possible. But there are some steps that we need to do first so that we don't compromise this process of finding the location and the option of discharge. And that, of course, is where the sensitivity and the need to go into confidential is. So I do support going into confidential and will be voting accordingly.
Thank you, Mayor Tapsell. Any other further comments from the councillors?
I just have a point of clarification on that comment, Madam Chair. I do not wish to... I'm happy to go into confidential for part of 8.3, but I do not intend to raise any issues that pertain to any specific options other than the most cost-effective one.
Councillor, that is problematic because you cannot have a full balanced discussion about an option in isolation. It needs to be balanced with conversation and the other alongside the other options. So I don't think it's actually fair or beneficial or balanced to be having half a discussion in public and half in excluded. And it's very hard to actually compare when you can't talk about information that's contained in a confidential section of the report. So I take on board your thoughts, but I will put this motion as it is at this stage. Thank you. So now I've put this motion to the vote. All those in favour for moving into public excluded, please say aye. And against? Thank you. And noted.
Yes, if that could be recorded, please. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll just give time for the live stream to be turned off and for the public. 15 minutes enough, team? Yep, we'll take a 15-minute break and be back at 11:15, please. Thank you. To the session of the Infrastructure Committee meeting. Thank you for that small break. We're on to item 8, the staff reports, or item 7, the staff reports. 7.4 is the State Highway 30 Eastgate Airport signalised intersection. It's on page 39 of your agendas, councillors. I have a mover and a seconder that the report State Highway 30 Eastgate Airport signalised intersection be received, please. Thank you, Councillor Maxwell. Seconded by Councillor Wang. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? That is carried. Thank you. And we have Stavros here to help walk us through a short presentation and then take questions. Thank you, Stavros.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll take the report as read. I will make a few quick comments and I will leave it to your deliberations. A little bit of a history. Back in early 2000, the Eastgate land development progressed. It was empty then, but that intersection there, it was identified by the land developers and the council's traffic impact assessment team in the early 2000s that once the development is fully completed, it will generate a significant amount of traffic. A certain trigger level will require the council to promote and implement an intervention at that intersection there too. So the key criteria for those triggers were exit and entries into the development will reach a traffic volume of about 2,000 vehicles per day. The developer at that point in time paid about $275,000 as a financial contribution to that intervention. That's about 23 years ago. And therefore, Council has to keep an ongoing monitoring process behind it. In parallel with that, as you know, our Rotorua Airport is progressing. Demand for traffic in and out of the airport is increasing, and obviously the airport has a proposal that is working, or business plan working at the moment to further develop the airport land. And the combination of those two factors, that the Eastgate development is nearing full utilization and the airport development is taking place, in recent years we have undertaken an assessment of that intervention, of that intersection, to see whether it's going to be, it requires the necessary intervention. What we have arrived at, it was that intervention, although the MOU with the developer in 2002 speaks about a roundabout on the state highway, that's not taken literally. The roundabout in that location will be cost in excess of about $10 million by current cost estimates. We have identified that an alternative, equally practical and effective solution would have been signalization of the intersection. As you see it, around there. This is we explored through open tenders 2 possible interventions into the signalization: a 3-legged style intersection where it basically controls traffic in and out of Eastgate alone, and a 4-legged intersection which are exactly opposite to that. It allows for a new entry and exit into the airport to be aligned with the airport's business park. The tender processes, when went through detailed design, I worked with NZTA to get a traffic management assessment for that, and we go to tenders and got the tender results as in your reports. It indicates that of the preferred solution of a 4-legged intersection will cost somewhere in the region of $3.2 million. So we now have the history of that location. We do understand the traffic trigger levels of that area, and the report in front of you basically canvasses your input and your decision making about the now very crystallized cost of that preferred intervention. The preferred intervention to address the intersection demand would be a 4-legged intervention, but this is costing $3.2 million. And that has been very clearly earmarked by the open tender process. So before you consider making a decision, I would like to invite you to consider, a couple of things. One, the agreement with the Eastgate developer it poses at the moment no legal obligations for you to implement the intervention because the trigger levels of traffic are less than the trigger levels agreed in 2002, about 1,300 vehicles a day versus the 2,000 vehicles that the MOU anticipated. The traffic safety records on that area is fairly, crash record is fairly low, so there is nothing, is not at the level that would consider an immediate intervention for that process. I would like also for you to consider that the safety on the state highway, it's under the road controlling authorities' responsibility, which is the NZTA. NZTA have not offered any financial contribution to that, although I have made repeated attempts to them. Their position is that the primary beneficiaries of that intervention will be the East Gate and the airport. And therefore they say, well, they're not prepared to offer any financial assistance for that. And the other area for considerations by you as elected members is the level of urgency that the airport's business plan requires to address and align their business park development with this kind of intervention at this location. So you will notice in the report I gave you two possible opportunities or possible options you have. One is to actually go ahead and do the work. However, it's a $3.2 million capital that is not budgeted for us at this point in time. And of course, once you do the capital intervention, you start accumulating the operational cost of that in terms of depreciation, financing cost, and operational maintenance for that. The second element, of course, is to consider the legal obligations that this council has undertaken with the land developer back 23 years ago. And you say, well, the traffic demand in that area has not reached the trigger levels, and you can defer that for a later date until those trigger levels have been met. So I'll leave it with you to consider. My professional advice at this point in time is that the required trigger levels have not been met at this point in time to justify the expenditure of $3.2 million. However, that's my personal and professional opinion, and your decision is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Stavros. Questions from the Deputy Mayor and then Councillor Sanford.
Thank you, Chair, through you. Stavros, the NZTA originally was going to fund a roundabout. Are you saying now that NZTA doesn't fund or won't fund any kind of intervention, whether it be traffic signals or a roundabout, regardless of the safety or the vehicle movements?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. NZTA's view is that for the State Highway, preferred solution would be a roundabout, a two-lane direction roundabout. They say that intervention would not be considered until stage 3 of State Highway 30 upgrade has been reached. As you know, they've done stage 1 from Salad Street to Isles Road, from Isles Road to Ofata Road, and stage 3 is from Ofata roundabout all the way to the airport, but they say the traffic demand in that area has not reached the level for them to undertake such an intervention at this point in time. Their preferred stage preferred intervention is a roundabout, but they also approve the signalization if the council wanted to go ahead with it.
Okay, thank you. Stavros, and also I think it's just a reminder of why this decision got brought forward ahead of the NZTA funding was originally because we were going to do the airport development, and it was a requirement for proposed opening of part of that commercial development to have the other access or egress from the airport.
Yeah, that was one of the main factors where we pushed ahead to get some absolute certainty about the costs. The other factor is that the Eastgate developer has approached us in recent times and asked, where are we with that? We've done another assessment of traffic volumes in that area to make sure that we're still within our trigger level interventions. And obviously the combination of that 2002 MOU with the developer and the airport's development plan brought us together to actually do a refresh our assessment and get certainty about costs.
Thank you for that. Chair, can I just signal that I would like to move an amendment to Clause 3 based on that the we defer actually putting in the signalisation at this time, but we agree to maintain our commitment towards the development at an appropriate time, not just from the trigger levels, but also it could be predicated that the airport does actually sell out. So the amendment would be as at an appropriate time, which would mean that potentially the airport, if it was ready to move earlier, needed to get further land available for phase 1B of the development, as well as or the agreed trigger levels.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Just indicating that.
Thank you, and I think to some extent that might have been reflected up here, but we'll continue with the questions and I'll note that. Thank you. We're going next to, bear with me, Councillor Sanford and then Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you. Just a couple of minor clarifications for me, please. The vehicles per day trigger in the report is the most up-to-date information that they're getting 1,600 vehicles per day through there, and is that from, when I read the report, I thought that was from 2016. Is that correct?
Now we've done the assessment as part of the design, for the signalisation, and the accurate actual number vehicle per day at the moment is 1,300 on average. 13.
Okay, thank you. And just another comment, possibly. I was a bit concerned about the three-legged intersection because there's no left turn coming from southbound traffic, so I definitely wouldn't be supporting that.
Yeah, well, I would agree with that. We think the ideal intervention, there is a four-legged intervention.
Thank you. Councillor Brown and then Mayor Tapsell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Councillor Kai Fong has asked the questions I was going to ask. I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Tapsell.
Thank you. In the report it notes that NZTA believe that, as you have also said, that the main beneficiaries of it would be the East Coast development and also the Rotorua Airport. Had they at all considered the safety benefits that that would bring? So although we have a low crash rate, I would hate for us to wait until there is a crash which is likely to be fatal before, and this is an argument that I've strongly put to NZTA when they've come here as well, supported by this council. So if I link that question to what the community do care about, the community care about safety. So is there recognition that this will improve safety? They care about lesser traffic congestion and also about cost. So I just am uncomfortable that this would be 3.2 million that's not budgeted, that although because it is needed for a safety perspective, council was willing to consider it, but it really falls on the NZTA to deliver this. And even then, when we said council would pay for it, they just need to prioritise it. They still did not. So, yeah, could you just provide some more explanation on why they wouldn't support something that has such a high safety element to it?
Thank you, Your Worship. In 2016, the NZTA provided to us a letter of intent that if the intervention was implemented before it met their development trigger levels, they were prepared to consider the proportion of safety improvements to contribute to that. I have pursued that for the last 2 years repeatedly, and I have repeatedly, are you still prepared to make an assessment of all the safety improvements and make an appropriate contribution to the project? Their most latest response was only about 2 or 3 weeks ago. After my repeated attempts, they said, no, we've got other priorities at this point in time, and we don't consider it to be a high priority for us, and therefore they're not prepared to make a contribution at this point in time. Now, I've got my views about it, which should remain in my own head, but we will, as I said, faced with that kind of demand on us. That's why I make my recommendation to say, well, if the road controlling authority, which is the NZTA, and carry the safety obligations for that road corridor, why would the ratepayers pay for that? And therefore, my recommendations reflect my thinking.
Thank you. We'll move on to Councillor Maxwell and then Councillor Wang and Councillor Lee.
Thank you. A couple of my questions were answered earlier, but I've got one here regarding, a couple of quick questions. It says in the report that the business park has been paid for 20 years or said. Now, is that money being set aside that they've been paying for up to now?
Thank you, Councillor Maxwell. You mean the financial contribution of the developer of Eastgate, mate?
Yes.
Yeah, the money paid to the council in 2002, it was $275,000. The money it was paid to us on the proviso there will be a contribution to the necessary intervention of that intersection, and specified what would be the trigger levels for that intervention to be implemented. So we have the money for 23 years, but we haven't actually implemented that intervention, which means we still remain faithful to that commitment once the trigger levels have been met. So that's what the recommendation says. We are not walking away from that commitment, but we'll do it when the trigger levels have been achieved.
All right, and if we do delay, is there something we can do that can make the going out of the airport, most traffic from the airport go towards us here, the city? I think to me that has really become, in my opinion, a real concern and a safety one. Is there a interim method that can be done? It might have come up in some of the options.
Again, I will repeat, at the technical level, there are things one can do to improve the safety. However, if the road controlling authority was NZTA and they have stewardship responsibility for the state highway, are not willing to put their money into an asset they are responsible for, it's difficult for me as an official officer of this organization to recommend to you.
Oh, sorry. Councillor Rotorua Tate, can you just mute yourself? Oh, she just disappeared, sorry. Thank you.
I was saying is that if NZT are not prepared to invest money on their road corridor, it's difficult to justify the ratepayer put money onto asset we don't own.
Thank you. I'll move to Councillor Wang.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And through you, I support the questions that have already been made, probably pretty similar ones. So my question is just around the financial aspect of it. So if we were to go with that four-legged intersection, signalised intersection, that 3.2 million tender, it does mention here that the ongoing asset depreciation and maintenance will be in the order of $150,000 per annum, which again, that's another addition. So I guess my question was just, if we were to fund this, then the asset that would be on our books, or would that be on NZTA, and how that works since it is a state highway? Are you able to talk a little bit about, I guess, how that relationship would work?
Well, if the ratepayer, i.e. incur the capital cost of the intervention of $3.2 million, then obviously that, the ongoing maintenance and management of that falls on the ratepayer again, unless those signals paid by the ratepayer are vested, to NZTA. And I will find it difficult to recommend the ratepayer invests $3.2 million of capital only to gift it to NZTA.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So that $150,000 of ongoing depreciation and maintenance, that have we had a discussion with the NZTA around, the fact that they won't even, fund around, or at least in the near future, around about all the signalised intersection, that cost of maintaining or depreciate,
Well, the assumption, Councillor Wang, is that, that would be another asset that potentially will be getting from NZTA the funding assisted rate of 57% per annum for the operational costs. However, as I said earlier, it still leaves another 43% to be funded by the ratepayer, plus a capital cost of $3.2 million. And as I said, it's difficult to align the interest of the ratepayer who's funding it with the benefits, on a state highway.
Thank you. Thanks for that.
Thank you. We'll have Councillor Lee and then Councillor Rokawa Tate. And Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you. Stavros, just a process question. If we look at paragraph 4 of the recommendation, that the committee agrees to instruct officers to implement the four-legged intersection. This would be a significant issue for those commuting on Tenai Road, and I think there was quite a bit of community pushback when a new traffic light got put in there. Isn't this something that we would have to consult on before making a decision like this?
In my opinion, no. I think there are intersection interventions in many different places, on local or state highway roads. It's basically simple, in its simple term, is traffic management. So any road controlling authority has the ability to intervene to optimize the efficiency and the effectiveness and the safety of a roading corridor. If you want to, sometimes you consult not so much about getting agreement, to the works. You inform people of the work you do. This is your responsibility. You are a road controlling authority, and you have the mandate under various legislations actually, to continue to operate on the road course you operate.
Thank you, and I'll just ask Andrew to add some comments.
If I can just add a little nuance to that, largely agree with Mr. Michaels. What I'd add is if the reason you were making this decision were to improve community amenity, then obviously we would recommend that you would need to consult with the community and understand their views more precisely so that the solution addresses their concern. However, as Mr. Michaels said, this is being approached from a safety point of view, so in that regard, my assessment is consistent with what's been said. I just wanted to be clear that not some interventions on roads you would consult because the objective is different. If it's safety driven, then as has been indicated, as road controlling authority, you may not need to.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. That's helpful. Just one more question concerning the $275,000 that this developer has contributed back in 2006. If it's not likely that they will ever get 2,000 vehicles per day, would they be eligible for some kind of refund if that's the case? If it's never going to be implemented?
If we decided that no intervention would ever take place, obviously there is some grounds to ask the question, what do you do with that money paid by the developer? However, those trigger levels will be met, and the question is when it's going to be met, and then at that point in time, the council, together with NZTA, have to do the intervention. At the moment, the traffic demand is about 1,300 vehicles a day, but on both east and west, of the East Gate, there are more developments going to take place in the near future. The airport park will continue there too, so there's no intention from the council not to do anything and therefore hand the money back. It's just about when is the right timing for that.
Okay, so how does the airport fit into the calculations of the 2,000 vehicles a day? Because they would be one arm on the, or one leg on the roundabout.
Yeah, well, the MOU with the development relates exclusively to the entry into that intersection from the south side, of the road, the east gate, side. The airport's business park will add some additional complexity because it will generate additional traffic and so on. That will inform, again, the timing of that intervention.
Okay, thank you very much. That was helpful.
Thank you. We'll move to Councillor Rukawa Tate. Do you have a question? I can't hear you at the moment. Sorry. You're on mute. Oh, hang on. We'll just unmute you from this end. Sorry. Sorry, still can't hear you, Councillor. You might need to unmute. Oh, there you go. Got you. Thank you.
Actually, no, thank you very much. I've just reread what I was going to question, and it's been addressed. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple of quick ones, Mr. Michael. Did NZTA contribute anything to the funding for the entrance into the new development in Longataha?
Not to the best of my knowledge.
Great. Well, then they're not applying the same thing. That's fair. Okay. So with that in mind, the traffic flows since the intervention of traffic lights on Tenai Road have got considerably worse. Was there any information provided as to what another set of traffic lights would do to that flow of traffic out that side?
No specific traffic impact assessment has been undertaken to correlate a signalized intersection here, in relation to the other signalized intersections from Ofata to Wharenui to Isles Road, and link them together as a combined traffic impact assessments. However, I think it's quite important to note that if our district plan, residential and development zoning arising between the Tarawera intersection and the East Gate is given effect, which will be at some point in time, it anticipates another 4,000 to 6,000 houses to be built in that area. So there's no doubt in my mind that as development takes place, there will be demand both on the state highway itself, but also demand coming from both on either side of Tenai Road. So as I said, the traffic volumes are increasing in that area. However, if you take the traffic volume between Sala Street and Tarawera Road, it's about 40,000 vehicles a day. From Tarawera to Ofata Road, it's about 25,000 vehicles a day, which means the traffic is distributing earlier than that. From Ofata to the airport, it's about 13,000 vehicles a day. So the traffic volume are reducing, you get closer to the airport. But again, in fullness of time, where our district plan is given effect, that traffic volume will increase, and that interventions will have to be, undertaken.
Thank you. Just one more question, if I may. The full extent of the development of Tenai Road, or the state highway, I guess you could say, from NZTA states it's going to go to 2 lanes in either direction, and their preferred option for that intersection was a roundabout, 2 lanes. If we were to put in a 4-legged intersection with traffic lights, the likelihood that if they get to the end of that development and decide, well, actually, time to remove that, who would then have to pay for the removal of the intersection and replacement with the roundabout? Would that be up to them?
Yes, because they will make a conscious decision that the signal at the intersection does not meet the requirements of the state highway, and therefore they will seek our agreement, if we are doing that, hypothetically, to remove the signals and replace them with a roundabout at their cost.
Thank you.
Thank you. Noting that there's no budget for this at the moment, and that potentially the traffic volumes are going to reach a point and the airport development will progress, is there a place for us to perhaps look at this in the long-term plan discussion at some stage?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, you are aware, obviously, in the next few months we're starting considering our long-term plan. And I think in my opinion, we should put a holding estimate into, as a project in the next 4, 5, 6 years, whenever you think is appropriate or we think is appropriate. So we can hold a commitment to do something in that area. But, whatever estimates I would make at this point in time is going to be an estimate. But certainly judging by the airport's communications we had with, they seem to be comfortable to hold it for, a few more years. But, we'll just have to make a judgment call and make a holding allocation for works maybe in the next 4 to 5 years.
Thank you. There appears to be no further questions. Thank you, Stavros. You're welcome to step away, and we'll have a look at what the resolutions are and what the Deputy Mayor has suggested. Looking at number 3 there, does that cover off?
Yes, because I think that's the compromise situation where we're covering both a trigger caused by either the airport reaching its commercial development or alternatively it's triggered by the vehicle movements per day. So I'd be happy to move that.
Thank you. And Councillor Patterson is happy to second. So we'll move into a round of discussion. Did you want to open?
Oh, just quick comments. I think this is a good compromise. It's still a commitment to do something. It's not taking it off the table altogether. There are the 2 options which will trigger when this comes back on the table. It also means it gives us time to perhaps put more pressure on NZTA to fund it. It'll allow time for the airport to complete its development and for those traffic movements to increase, but I think that having the option to hold some funding potentially in the LTP to bring this forward if we need to, if NZTA still doesn't come to the party and Council does wish to then look at that for leaded signalisation, then there is the opportunity to do that at a later stage. So that's why I'm suggesting that this is just a good compromise situation in the meantime, and particularly with it being unfunded, we brought it forward thinking that we might have been able to also get some pressure from NZTA, but as I said, compromise in the meantime.
Thank you. Any further comments, councillors? There appears to be none, so the recommendations are that the committee notes the background land development commitments, the emerging traffic risks and the relevant considerations informing this report, and that the committee agrees to maintain its commitments towards the Eastgate development at the appropriate time and or as guided by agreed trigger levels, but to defer the implementation of the intersection signalisation. It's been moved by the Deputy Mayor and seconded by Councillor Patterson. I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? That is carried. Thank you, councillors. We'll now move on to the next item, 7.1, the infrastructure and assets update. This is on page 11 of your agendas, councillors. I'd like to ask for a mover and a seconder that the report be received, please. Thank you, Councillor Brown and Councillor Wang. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Is carried. Thank you. And this is a very important report considering that we oversee over $2 billion worth of assets. So I leave it in Stavros's hands. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will go through my high-level executive summary of the report through a set of PowerPoints, take each activity on its own merits. Activities over the last 2-3 months related heavily on renewals of water mains in the streets you see in front of you. We have doing some preparation. We are doing some preparation to continue to meet our drinking water standards and water safety assessments. As part of that, we're looking to all our water reservoirs to make sure they have no cracks or no contamination or no pollution in these water tanks. And obviously, we'll continue to look into enhancing and optimizing our network for future developments, in the whole district. And we've got some areas that, we're implementing both new pipelines and new reservoirs in anticipation of that, future development strategy that the Council has adopted. So, our drinking water standards have been met. The last report we had and the audited report was back in late March. We anticipate by the end of June, again, our assessment will meet all our KPIs for water. In stormwater, obviously, we do have a number of important improvements to our local network, and you see some pictures up there on Melrose and Lee Road and Tumbleson Road, stormwater mains, and obviously, we continue to pay emphasis onto our existing network to make sure it's still fit for purpose. Just wanted to note for everyone to understand that, stormwater major capacity changes are reliant on to the stormwater master plan that has been implemented by our capital projects delivery team, and obviously the regular reports about that. These are maintenance and small renewal components in our existing network. Wastewater, we'll continue to, we almost finished the Paraguay rising main linking Nungotaha in northern Sapes into the treatment plant, and it's about 3.6 kilometers of high pressure pipeline, and that is progressing well. I think we've got the last couple of 100 meters to complete that work. It's a $6 million project, and we'll continue to maintain and renew components of our network. I just wanted to show this couple of pictures of you there. What you see there is it's foreign objects in our sewage pipelines. You know that, but I will repeat it to you again. In terms of key performance indicators for the wastewater network, we have a number of KPIs. One of the KPIs is not to have more than 10 wastewater overflows per 1,000 connections. That means in rough water allows us to have up to 270 overflows or blockages or escaping sewage 270 times a year. And that is agreed by the DIA and the relevant authorities and concerns and so on. Unfortunately, over 55 to 60% of these blockages and the resulting overflows is a result of misuse of the wastewater system. People putting into their system things that should not be putting, wet wipes, rags, toys, you name it. And of course, when those materials enter into the pipeline, they accumulate, they fall, fatbergs as we call them, oils and so on, and block the pipe. The pipe backflows back to the upstream manhole, the manhole overflows, and you have an overflow. Often, you as elected members, you hear about, was an overflow of sewage somewhere. And the assumption behind that is that our pipes are broken or the system is not working properly. As I said, close to 60% of that is a result of misuse of the network, and that's a good, clear picture there of what you find in the pipelines when you clean them up. So again, we have the responsibility to continue to educate people, but I think it's quite important for you as elected members not to think that the network breaks. It's just the network is used in the wrong way. So we'll continue to educate the community and do the best we can. Civil defense, again, an ongoing activity we have undertaken a significant ongoing training for our staff. As I said, in earlier reports, we've got about 100 staff that are fully trained, to undertake an emergency operation center activation. On Sunday, we had a test run of the national alerting system on our phones. Some people got panicky about it. We got some calls, what's going on and why we got these calls and so on. But nevertheless, this is just an indication that, we are playing a critical role into not just for Rotorua, but also part of the regional Bay of Plenty emergency management system. And, we continue to train and activate, our staff so we can be ready for any particular event. In terms of long-term planning, we are now working, as you know, on the concept of the local water done well with other partner agencies. The working group is meeting regularly and exploring the possibilities. So by the end of August, the council will have to start considering a decision on where to follow a collaborative approach with the other district councils or to stay alone in our water delivery plans. Property strategy, again, I have a report coming up, an update, very soon. But, we have a working group that, is developing the draft property strategy and property policy, and obviously the expectation for us is to adopt that strategy and property strategy before we start the long-term plan, because that will inform actions we'll take in the long-term plan, and it will inform any investment you want to make in that property portfolio. And again, we are very close to having the final draft of that strategy for you to consider in August this year. Our infrastructure strategy and water services strategy and asset management plans need to be refreshed and reconsidered again by the next upcoming LTP. Every 3 years you review it, you refresh it, you update it, and you adopt it for the next 30 years, and you have the rolling refreshment every 3 years. So we're doing all the necessary reevaluation of our assets valuations, operational efficiencies, operational effectiveness, and so on. And we embed all the information to our infrastructure strategy that will inform your financial strategy, and your financial strategy will inform your long-term plan. Thank you. Environment. I wanted to emphasize that we're undertaking an exercise at this point in time to understand where the possible pollution sources of our stormwater. Zinc appears to be a significant element that finds its way into our waterways, and again, that zinc comes from old galvanized roof ironing and other structures. Lots of sheds got all galvanized sheets up around them. We're doing a significant amount of testing, and we identified that through our stormwater licensing process, as you know, we do have a comprehensive stormwater consent at the moment, and for that consent, we need to start developing 7 catchment management plans to address the conditions of that consent. One of them is to identify possible sources of pollution of the stormwater system, and investigate it and initiate actions to mitigate that. So one of the areas is zinc. The other area is going to be oils and other toxic material that gets into the waterways. And we have right now a bylaw that is supported by the comprehensive stormwater license that allows us to go to especially the industrial areas and discuss and to license those industrial areas to manage those contaminants that get into our streams and waterways. So that's, again, a piece of work in progress by our environment protection team. And again, I mentioned earlier in the area of Ituhina, we selected a very small portion of the network, and we put in the cesspits, which we've got 5,500 of them, what we call litter traps. And also got some socks at the end of discharged stormwater pipes. What you see in front of you there is what has been captured in one cesspit after one single rain event. Rough water calculation there is that it's about 200 grams of plastics, glass, other organic material that finds its way into the stormwater system. Now, we've got 5,500 cesspits. If you do some rough calculation, every time it rains, it indicates that somewhere in the region of 1 ton of debris gets into our waterways. And if it rains for 30 days, we have 30 tons. If it rains for 50 days, 50 tons. So the modeling work we have done, the pilot case identifies that having litter traps within our cesspits will contribute significantly to the pollution, to reducing pollution on our waterways. Our LTP will start indicating over the next 30 years we want to continue implementing those programs in a way that will facilitate improvement in water quality in our waterways, combined with community education. Hopefully, we start reversing back a lot of that pollution of our fresh waters. Facilities, we have undertaken a significant amount of improvements, mainly maintenance areas, and community, holding Rotorua remedial work remains on track to finish completion in late June. Councillor Barker will be excited by the thing. I think we're doing our best, to catch up with that. And again, we'll talk about the property, later on, but, this is an area of activity that requires ongoing systematic maintenance and renewal, because there are a large number of facilities and a large number of assets that need to be protected. Again, we have a capital program where we are now progressing in improvements to the HVAC in the library. We replacing the roof in the Sir Howard Morrison Performance Center. We're doing a preliminary design work to start re-roofing this building. The roof has been installed about 43 years ago, I believe, and you probably notice every time a heavy rain is leaking. So we will be doing that project starting from next financial year, and obviously managing our extensive fleets of vehicles to maintain them fit for purpose and as cost efficient as possible. Yeah, for the ship pack, yeah. Yeah. In transportation area, most of our activities in the recent couple of months have been in completing our annual resilient program has been completed. The renewal programs of other bits and pieces, 95 complete by the time we have written that report. We had emergency works in Mangamingi and Napuri, and obviously starting work in Waihio Drive in June. To respond to the tomo that's developed over there to replace, that cavity. And again, this year probably we incur somewhere in the region of $3.5 to $4 million of remedial works resulting from the weather in the transport area. Western climate change.
We'll just save questions to the end if that's okay, Councillor. We'll just save questions until the end if that's okay.
You on this one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
FOGO, now we have a new date for FOGO implementation on October. We are all very busy getting ready for that. We have installed a CCTV camera in Tarawera and appears, to monitor illegal or unauthorized dumping up here in the transfer station. We have some impacts on the general fuel situation on international level in managing through our supply contractors. And obviously, we are progressing our day-to-day 8,000 collections of waste and recycling on a daily basis. And obviously, we will try to educate again the public, like the wastewater system, where we have racks and material in the system. A lot of people put materials in the recycling bins that shouldn't be there. And unfortunately, it takes a long time to get people to avoid those situations. And again, we will start now using both an education approach, but also a sticky, a carrot and a stick. It says if you be given notice 3 times, we will stop collecting from you. Hopefully, we'll see some results behind that. So I know I'm run very quickly through that. Just remind all of us that, I think the general infrastructure activities consume somewhere in the region of $2 to $2.5 billion of your assets. A significant amount of activities taking place every month. So happy taking questions, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Stavros. And we're straight to Councillor Maxwell. It's page 11 of the presentation, I think, that you were asking a question about.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Page 21.
Oh, 21 is it?
We approved the work on Waihio Drive out at Whakarewarewa, and I think work's starting this month. If any other tomos pop up in the meantime, do we look after those as well while we're there?
Yes, Councillor Max. I mean, everywhere we have a tomo, and especially affecting a public space, like a road corridor or a footpath. We just address it, on the best way possible.
Good. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms Tapsell.
Thank you very much. Just in relation to the 15 new vehicles purchased as part of the fleet, in the past we have had, as part of a sustainability policy, I think it was remove 2 cars, bring in 1 electric. We've brought in electric bikes and electric scooters for staff to use while getting around town. But I just wondered if there was consideration into electric vehicles as part of that fleet purchase, and I do note that even if they are utes, there are electric utes available, and I suppose I raise that question because, as we've seen from other parts of your presentation, the cost of this oil crisis and global supply chains is still prevalent, and unfortunately, in particular for diesel, vehicles, which we have many of. From the information that I have, it's not expected to go down anytime soon. So I appreciate that electric has always been seen as more expensive, but now, especially with the introduction of other electric brands into New Zealand, we're seeing them drive around Rotorua now, and yeah, I personally believe it would make sense to be switching to more sustainable and clean energy sources for our fleet vehicles as well, at pace.
Yeah, thank you, Yagoshi. You're absolutely right. I think we've seen a lot more electric or hybrid vehicles, being purchased at this point in time. The 15 vehicles were replaced, recently. It mainly relates to some legacy issues we had because ex-Infraco had agreements to lease trucks and equipment from leasing companies, and that proved to be not as cost effective as possible. So as the leases are coming to expire, we're replacing them with vehicles we own at the moment, and sometimes we're replacing 3 vehicles with 1, depending on the operations. But the general thrust of your question, where possible and that's available in the market, vehicles that utilize electricity instead of fossil fuels, I think that's a general policy we will approach.
Again, and if that could please be preferred as well, and yeah, come back to us if you need a stronger policy change there. And so I've got one other question. It's just regarding the roof of the Sir Howard Morrison Centre. I'm a bit concerned at that because only in 2023 we completed a $36.5 million upgrade to the building. So, I appreciate that we've recently changed the way we do things to better understand our assets. So I don't believe we'll have these surprises moving forward, and I have confidence moving forward. But I'm just concerned that so soon there's a roof replacement that's required. That's a very core element of this key community facility. It's not minor, and I imagine the cost and the price of fixing it's not minor either. So can you just provide a little bit more explanation on why that may not have been included in the significant redevelopment, which was over double the cost of the original budget anyway?
It was actually triple. The initial budget for the initial project cost for Shimpak was about $12 million, ended up $37 million for doing additional things, if you recall. But you're right, that facility was only partially upgraded, and having the partial upgrading, now we have to make sure that it's protected, from having an appropriate roof behind it. But, you will find through the property strategy that we'll be talking very soon with all of you that every one of the facilities you've got has got either some legacy issues, or got some future protection issues you need to address. So, I don't really want to elaborate a lot more of that, other than to say that the project was initiated and completed for the Shimpak. It only covered about 40% of the building itself. The rest of the other 60% was actually cosmetically painted or patched, but now significant elements of the roof, need to be managed in order to protect the investment that was made, earlier. Because roof in any building is the most critical component. Yeah.
Thank you. We'll go now to Councillor Lee, Wang, and then Sanford.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you, Stavros. You've raised a concern about zinc getting into the stormwater system, and you've got a nice picture of a galvanised roof, which is a major zinc source. Would it be a major zinc source if that was a painted roof?
If the paint is maintained properly, then it will protect leaching of zinc because the paint is waterproofing, membrane. So again, the picture was just to highlight some of the old, galvanized roof iron. It's assumed to be okay for the building, but it's like a lot of contamination, emerging contamination materials. Everybody's talking at this point in time. If you look into what's going into the stormwater from the paint of our houses, from the asphalt on the roads, from the concrete, your driveway, from the, from roof tiles or the tires of vehicles and so on. These are all pollutants that find its way to the waterways. Yeah.
Are you suggesting that unpainted roofs are a problem?
I'm suggesting that unpainted roof that's, they're not water sealed, they're not, they are a problem.
Okay. Hydrofluorosilicic acid also attacks galvanised iron or galvanised whatever, which has zinc in it, otherwise known as fluoride. Do we have galvanised pipes in our water system?
No.
No? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, councillors, I'll just take these final three questions because we're getting short on time. I've got Councillor Wang, Sanford, and then Patterson, and then we'll finish. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just thank you, Stavros, for the report. A quick one. Just under the waste one with the landfill, Tirohia landfill closing within 12 months, and our waste heading to Hampton Downs. What impact does that have? Does that have any impact for us? With our contracts or operationally or costs?
No, because at this point in time, no, other than the transportation costs, the fuel costs have generated additional costs going from our transfer stations to whatever the landfill will be there. It is a known issue in the whole country that landfills are becoming a scarce commodity, and it's becoming very difficult to consent new landfills. We actually have at the moment a working group comprising many officers from all our regional councils, from Waikato to Bay of Plenty to look into consolidating waste management as a regional collaborative shared service approach. One part of that is actually to try to encourage contractors to move material recovery facility in our area, and we're actively working to that. But I think you do need to be aware that landfilling materials is becoming more and more costly, both because of the government ETS emission trading scheme and also the waste minimization levies, which comprise about 60 to 65% of every ton of landfilling cost we incur. So it's a challenging area. That's why we're going to FOGO, for example, who's taking away another 6,000 to 8,000 tons of material away from the landfill. So it's a challenge for all of us.
Thank you. And you mentioned the point that landfills are becoming a scarce, way of disposing waste. How long does the Hampton Downs, have in terms of capacity, roughly?
I can't tell you exactly the term of its capacity at the moment, but my understanding in the latest discussions I had with the industry is that there's at least another 20, 25 years, but I stand to be corrected on that.
Thank you. And you mentioned that there is that work going on into exploring, future future ways of how we deal with waste as well. Thank you.
That's right.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Sanford, then Councillor Patterson. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you very much for the report, Stavros. I had a question about the industrial stormwater and the zinc as well. In there we mentioned the stormwater licensing. Does our current stormwater licensing require zinc capture at source, or is this going to be a new thing that we put into our stormwater licensing?
It will be a new thing in our stormwater licensing, and the reason for that, in October, November last year, we secured our comprehensive stormwater consent, and part of that consent requires us to identify pollution sources, and that generates our exploration of where the pollution sources are and what kind of mitigation approaches need to be taken.
Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Quick question regarding the civil defence. We had 5 activations this year. Looking ahead, there's a lot of talk in the media about this so-called Super El Nino. While it mainly focuses on the likelihood of drought, there are other consequences. Have we been keeping an eye on what that could mean for us?
Thank you, Councillor Patterson. Climate change in general, including drought, is part and parcel of our what we call contingencies planning, and obviously, we maintain an active look both at our own, but also as part and parcel of the National Emergency Management Office. In Rotorua, we are we are blessed with a lot of water, so I imagine it will take quite a few years of continuous this drought for us to be affected by it.
As far as rainfall goes, is there any likelihood of any more of those big tropical rivers, as they call them?
Mr. Michael, I'll remind you about our discussion earlier about hypothecating on things that we don't have control over.
Thank you.
Pretty hard to answer. Thank you, councillors. We might just finish that item there. We've got 2 more items to go before we need to break to get ready for the next meeting. So we'll move on to 7.2, the property strategy progress update. So we have Stavros here again to answer our questions. I'd just like to move that the property strategy progress update be received, please. Thank you, Councillor Brown and Councillor Wang. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? That is carried. Thank you. So we'll just do a quick run through, Stavros, and allow a bit of time for questions. That'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, very briefly. Apologies, first of all, Russell George, who made his presentation today, but unfortunately he's been unwell for the last few days, so I'm taking over my group, so it's my responsibility. Property strategy, I cannot emphasize it strongly enough. We have a legacy issue with our property. It's a significant portion of our assets. They're worth a lot of millions of dollars, and we're working together with the working group conscientiously to put together a strategy that will inform your long-term plan. And so now there are key objectives of the strategy consolidating into making sure that determining the buildings, that's actually, and the facilities that actually essential to the delivery of the services. We determine within the strategy as to what kind of level of service we want to promote around, and there are some key examples for effect. To have 60 public toilets, do we need 60 public toilets? Do we need 50? The decisions we need to make. We need to identify facilities and land for consolidation divestment. We've got a number of facilities and holdings in our portfolio that when you look at it from the cold, hard look of why do we have them, they do not support a primary activity. They are historical acquisitions that will carry the liability for it, and to ensure that we have a good information about all the assets we have, so it can make us can inform us driving forward our appropriate management practices. So again, we try through the strategy to understand what the purpose and the cost associated with each maintaining and renewing property assets. Again, I'll give you some rough order numbers. I think they come later in the presentation. That the portfolio probably has got a demand for maintenance alone, as it is, somewhere in the region of $15 million a year, about $10 million of renewals and about $5 million of maintenance. That's what you're going to face continuously. So we need to be cognizant of that portfolio. That the portfolio it's an asset that it demands continuous investment into that. We do also recognize that some buildings under our control are heritage designated, and there's not a lot we can do about it. And therefore, we need to decide how well we need to protect them and treat them, and to determine obviously an appropriate funding levels or long-term planning. Simply wishing for these facilities not to be there is not an option, but once we have them, we have to maintain them or renew them properly. So in August this year, and then coming together as a part and parcel of putting together our infrastructure strategy, we need to have together a property and facilities management strategy for your agreements. So the milestones are outlined there. We've done, we started in early 26 to do some high-level mapping of the facilities. We haven't completed it. We identified the surplus to core requirements assets, and it's been completed. We have now started looking into opportunities to improve the value in some areas. I've got a couple of areas so you'll be aware of. We've got some facilities that cost us, let's say, $300,000 to $400,000 a year to maintain. And we've got users of these facilities are not council activities. They pay $100 a year lease. Now, there's always going to be that argument about those organizations using the facilities to provide community good, but you have to make that decision whether it's worth the amount of investment required every year. So we'll go through this exercise and we'll present it to you in a workshop in the near future. We will identify any surplus land or facilities that are not necessary or can be repurposed for improvements in July, next July, and we'll identify opportunities to progress to business cases in the long-term plan in August 2026. So in some areas where we said this facility or this land holding, it serves no tangible primary purpose of the council, let's consider what are our options. Sell it, repurpose it, gift it, hand it over, whatever you think is appropriate, but we need to explore these opportunities, and obviously we need all these considerations will input into a long-term plan to be completed by November 26th, and we're going to have individual business cases for each component or parcel of land that we don't think is necessary for our long term. Then you can make some decisions on how do you want to treat it. It's your decision with our recommendations, obviously, going forward on that. So between March and May, we've refined our assessments. We've identified areas that are surplus to core requirements, and we had a workshop in May where we overview the policy and strategy. And then the next steps is that a workshop, in June, I think it's towards the end of June, someone is trying to put a time together to reconfirm our final draft strategy. Then we will work through to identify opportunities for improved, value for some areas, and any surplus holdings to be clearly identified. A council meeting seeking to adopt the policy and strategy will be done in August, and together with the identified opportunities to ring fence them and say we don't no longer require these facilities. Let's explore the best way of divesting them or optimize them. So a policy development has to be developed in parallel with the property strategy, because once you have decided that that facility is not useful to the council, you do need to have a property policy disposal which says how we're going to do it. Are we going to give it to someone for free? Are we going to sell it, go to the market, get the best value? And there are different views about it, but certainly our recommendations will be to optimize the value of these facilities, and the policy will progress.
Just wanted to add, as you come to the end of your presentation, two other pieces of work that will intersect with this. One we will likely discuss this afternoon in the Audit and Risk Committee meeting, which is around Council's risk appetite and tolerances, because those will flow into the LTP and how decisions around looking after existing property and assets are made. And the second is the level of service review, which Council instructed us to carry out in order to inform, again, the long-term plan, because assets exist for Council in order to provide a service to the community. Where the service changes, then the assets need to adjust in terms of what they deliver and how. Sorry, I should have said through the chair.
No, I totally agree with all that. My chief executive has, has identified that I want to close off and again reiterate our property and facilities portfolio has been below the radar for a very, very long time. It's a significant value. It's in the order of $550 to $600 million replacement value. I think it's a good chance that about 20% of that can serve no tangible and visible benefit, to support activities, and therefore we need to have a strategy to say, for as long as we keep them, we incur the liabilities. And the liabilities materialize in terms of maintenance, insurance, operating costs, renewals, and so on. So we need to make some decisions over the long-term plan to say the things you need to keep have to be kept and maintained very well to serve the purpose. Certain things we don't need, we need to expedite and get rid of them or divest them or repurpose them to minimize the cost liability to the ratepayer. So that I'm uncomfortable. I'm happy that we got to that stage in the next couple of months, because it's been a long time coming. Thank you.
Thank you. Agreed, Stavros. It has been a long time coming. And the next chance we get as councillors to have a good look at the next phase of work is going to be possibly a June workshop, I believe. So any questions for Stavros? Yes, Councillor Pearson.
Just a point of clarification, if I may. Thank you, Madam Chair. The workshop that we had in May that identified some of the properties that we'll be looking at, are there any others that are likely to be added to that list, or is that what we're basing it on?
the best of our ability at the moment, we're mapping. I don't think there's a significant other properties, but again, identifying them and actually having a plan what to do with them is the second stage. So I really will continue driving behind that.
Thank you.
Thank you. There don't appear to be any further questions. Thank you, Stavros. So we will move on, councillors, to item 7.3, which is the wastewater treatment plant upgrade progress update for May 2026. It's page 33 of your agenda, councillors, and I'd just like to welcome Ian back. In the meantime, could I have a mover and a seconder that the report be received, please? Thank you, Councillor Patterson, and seconded Councillor Wang. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? That is carried. Thank you. And I'll leave it to Ian to overview the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This will be probably my second to last update on this. We've had a number of updates this year. It's likely September we will be close to commissioning and closing out the current phase or practical completion, so envisaging one more after this. I will wrap together really quickly. I do talk about us walking into the commissioning phase at present. The picture in the middle, you'll see some white straight lines around the bottom. Those are curb lines going in. That starts to talk to us closing out the last of the civil works. There's only a few foundations still to go in. Curb lines says on a project like this that we're starting to walk towards that last phase of it. Having said that, there are still some significant risks ahead of us. Most of them sit in Trinity's space. We've got 17 cutovers, which is taking the old plant and making the new plant active. Some of those are electrical, some of them are pipework and things, so there is still that process of making the new plant live. So we're walking into that phase now. Ian, who was here earlier, has done some really good work. The Trinity team are going through a little bit of a reset around their commissioning team. So we we recognise that was largely out of Australia, so we brought that in-house here, so that's will have changed our program a tiny little bit, pushed us out a little bit, but that doesn't have any material effect on what we're doing. There's no cost associated with that for council. It's a nice little area where the team is still actively looking at risk and putting mitigation measures in place. The commissioning phases, there's a lot for us to do as we bring the assets in-house, capitalise them. There's a lot for Trinity are our O&M contractor, so there's a lot to get the operations team up to speed, so both from an RLC and a Trinity side. So we are in that big piece of work now, but yeah, we do still have risk, but it is narrowing its way down. A nice little milestone, the bottom right one, discharge to air, that's been out for public consultation. It closes June. We've only had one submission and we've closed that out, so that's a nice step. The new plant will have significantly less odour than the current plant, which doesn't have much anyway. So that's a really nice little project milestone for us to step through. The pie on the right says we're 90% of the way through. We're probably a touch advanced on that even. We will be at practical completion in October now. I think we've bounced sort of that September, October-ish, but it's looking like it's going to sit within October, which is a really nice milestone. That does talk to our comms team, starting to talk to the process. It also talks to our recovered water project as well. The two projects are linked at the hip. The performance proving period. So although we reach practical completion of this phase, which is the lion's share of it, we do step into a year's performance proving. That talks to the quality of the product coming out of the plant. It is really important that the plant does everything we've said it will do. That talks to our recovered water project as well. It is projected to meet or exceed all current or future New Zealand standards. So that performance proving is still really important to us. it will become way quieter from my side, but it is really important for this project. And I guess I will always, top left and bottom right, the top left is the influent coming in, the bottom right is the product which will come out. It's really important to remember, and this is our journey making for the community, the significant investment in this and the excellent outcomes that this project will meet. It meets everything it's set out to meet. So ring fencing the project, that is fantastic outcomes. The rest of the imagery really just give you a little bit of an update. The middle top's the inlet works where we had some significant challenges early on, but it really just talks to different phases, and as I say, we're really just closing the project out at this stage, or stepping into the closeout phases of it. Very quick update. I will leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ian. It is a significant project for our community and for the environment, and it's great to see it progressing so well to completion on time. So is there any questions, councillors, at this stage? Thank you very much. It looks like it was a great report and it's progressing really well. So thank you very much, team. Appreciate your time. Thank you, councillors. I think that wraps it up for today. So I would just like to invite Deputy Mayor Kai Fong to close us with a karakia, please.
Kia whakiire te tapu, kia wā te ai te ara, kia turiki whakata ai, kia turiki whakata ai, haumi e hui e tā.
Thank you, and I'll declare the meeting closed at 12:32. Thank you.